Hey, welcome back. My name is Lady Bloopington, and my puppy right here is Harry Potter. Today we're going to discuss season 20, episode 17. The episode description says one on one conversations continue as Kody shares that Coyote Pass was a major influence on his apologies to his ex wives. David explains why Cody's apology to Christine offended him, and Robyn reveals her part in the backdoor deal. All right, let's get into it. Welcome to the podcast, Sister Lives, a red flag rewatch. This is a podcast for disenchanted fans of Sister Wives, fans who fell in love with the Brown family, watched their precious kids grow up, and became enchanted with all the love, only to be told it was all a lie. Nothing was as it seemed. We were bamboozled, fooled, duped, tricked, conned, swindled, hoodwinked. What did we miss? Where did it go wrong? Come help me find out as we watch from the beginning. So in my podcasting journey, I have discovered that I get really excited to cover like season 1 and season 2 of Sister Wives and not season 20. Season 20 is still fun to cover, but not as exciting as the earlier seasons. I don't really know who to believe or what's going on, and it's a lot of he said, she said stuff, and I just really enjoy the beginning years way more. You're watching these tell-alls, and they're not sitting on the same couch. Suki's like playing a game of telephone, and she's saying, well, they said this and they said this. It's ridiculous. And the lies, just outright lies that they're telling, and they just expect us to believe anything. Cody's statement, he outright says in the middle of this episode that Janelle and I couldn't have made that backdoor deal work. It was just an idea. I think that kind of sums up this whole backdoor deal issue, is that they knew it would never work. And now we're making this humongous deal about it. And that's something that business partners do anyway. You discuss all your options. Why was it so wrong of Janelle and Kody to discuss all their options? Another piece of Sister Wives news is that Sarah Fraser was able to interview Suki, and she told Sarah a lot of stuff. One of the things she says is that she does read all the comments, so she knows that some people are disappointed in her. She says that with Kody, the same thing she told Dr. Adam is that he is neurodivergent, and that she has to constantly work to center him, and that getting straight answers from him are tough. She also said that she feels like Kody and Janelle still have a connection. Thought that was interesting. And she says when she's interviewed them in the years past, she's always had a huge feeling that they were covering up a lot of stuff, that there were a lot of secrets. And she was glad that more secrets were revealed this season. There's a lot of crap and hard feelings and layers between them. Janelle wanted to build a house. She wanted to start Tata Farms, and she was tired of all the mess. She does feel like that Kody took this situation that they were in and manipulated it. And that not only that, that he stirred the pot between them, which is a lot like girl games, wouldn't you think? She feels like that Robyn is being more open this season because she's the only wife left. Sarah asked her if Suki felt like that Robyn had manipulated any of this situation. And Suki was like, yeah. She says that may be spot on. She felt like that Robyn did have a say in what was going on. She wouldn't be surprised that the NDA was all Robyn's idea. And she felt like that Cody's apology tour was all for himself. She says that in the past, he hasn't been a great father or husband, and that he was kind of a jerk. Suki was saying some stuff in this one. She feels like Meri's general attitude toward Kody is just exhausted. She's just tired of Kody. And she feels like that Meri got the least out of everybody. And she says that she has always felt like this family is separated. The family is not as together as they would have you believe. And I believe that too, because even in season 1, when they were all in the big house, I feel like they were very separated then. I know that didn't make sense, but for example, Peyton had his own room in Christine's house because he was the only boy. It didn't make much sense to me. I'm like, why didn't Peyton go share a room with Garrison or something? Why didn't he do that and then let the girls spread out? But I think it was because they had their own separate families. She feels like it's been like that since day one, that they've always been separate and they haven't really been close as they would lead us to believe. which is kind of sad. She says she didn't feel like they shared with each other from the beginning, and that they were super strict about affection in front of each other. She says she realizes now that Janelle left a couple of times before the show started, and she feels like that Janelle and Meri will never really be friends, just be friendly. She herself hated the separate interviews. She said it made her job 10 times harder. And she says the ultimate goal to get them all on the couch, but she doesn't feel like that's going to happen. She said she felt like Jen was a real lifesaver. He gave her a lot of information that normally she wouldn't be able to get. She's going to predict maybe for the next season that there will be a family reunion. She says that Kody and his kids, the chances of them reconciling are really low because she feels like the children are grown now, and it's hard to reconcile with a grown adult who's self-sufficient. And now that they kind of know what's been going on, she felt like for years that Meri was very lonely. She didn't really have anybody. And she thinks that Robyn pretended to be her friend and ghosted her. She had mentioned that she felt like Kody really is the one that caused all this and that he stirred the pot, that nothing was really going on. It reminded me of season 2, episode 10, where the Browns are moving to Vegas, and it was such a chaotic episode. Robyn was like, no, we need to leave Tuesday. And so Kody went over to Janelle and said, we need to leave on Tuesday. And she's like, no, you said we were going to leave on Monday. Janelle is scared that the police are going to realize that they're leaving town. She knows that the media is getting wind of them moving. She wants to move as soon as possible. There's a scene where it's Kody and Christine in the kitchen, and they're discussing Janelle. If you watch the scene that I'm about to show you, he likes to stir that pot, to complain about one wife to another wife. They say in later episodes that he doesn't do that, but he totally does that.
Well, I don't have enough room in that trailer. I have to get another trailer or a truck.
Well, we're gonna look very obviously like we're moving then. Listen, we take bunk beds and we take clothes and dishes. That's all we need.
We're trying to move a small army here, and I'm going upstairs, downstairs, I'm going all around, and everything's kind of, my head's spinning, it's confusing. Everything's going great until I talk to your sister wife.
Your wife?
No, she's your sister wife right now. And then she says, no, we can't do that.
Why? When I told
Because when
everyone
we
that was
pull
my
a
plan.
truck in here, we change the dynamic. We have the sheriff double tapping his brakes near our home, not because the dogs are in the street, but because in Janelle's head, they're after us. You know what, you just think that if something bad's gonna happen, your gut's gonna tell you.
I think that we should just go tomorrow.
Robyn doesn't. In reality, we're driving out of here. We got 6, 7, 8 hours that we'll be on the road that we can be stopped. And it's gonna be obvious to anybody who's really concerned about it. In the end, we can only make assumptions. Unless I get a vibe that we need to leave Monday, I'm sorry, I plan on leaving Tuesday morning.
Why? Because you and Robyn just decided it when you were over there?
No.
Sorry, I'm just asking.
So he did go to Christine and complain about Janelle. And Meri's standing in the corner, and she even says, why are you changing your mind? Because you just went over to Robyn's and y'all decided to do it different? Is that it? So she confronted him about it. Him and Robyn had decided to change things, and now they're changing it for everybody. I think he pitted them against each other. You remember when David said that that's what polygamous men like to do, is pit the wives against each other? Because if the wives are pitted against each other, then they're more likely to vie for his affection. If they get together and they're friends, then they won't pay as much attention to him. And another thing that bothers me, the reason we're all kind of upset with the fact that they won't pay Meri and Janelle is because we know how much money Kody and Robyn have spent on stuff. They're not bringing up how much money that Kody and Robyn have taken out of the family pot. Right now, they're in a $2.1 million house. And Meri's living in her great-great-grandmother's house, which is a regular everyday house, a family home that she's renovating. And Janelle is just now building her house, which is a regular, normal house. They're not really discussing how much Kody and Robyn have. Why aren't they bringing up the art and the jewelry and the statues and the purses and the Mercedes? They've got 2 huge garages crammed full of stuff. why don't they bring that up? And if you go on Reddit, in February of 2025, Dollgate was exposed, where it all started, which is so funny. It started because one person was trying to look up where Aurora's shirt came from whenever they were painting the picnic tables. And she noticed that it came from Etsy and that Robyn had commented on it. And then she started looking into what else Robyn had commented on. And she mentioned it to Reddit. And then all of a sudden it caught like wildfire. They started finding all of Robyn's comments. Apparently, this woman, every time she bought something, she would comment on it. And there was all these comments of everything she had bought. So it was so easy to see what she had bought. Like when she would buy a doll dress, she would talk about how wonderful the lace was and how well it was sewn. All of these Reddit sleuths got together and they figured out that she had spent anywhere from $60,000 to $90,000 since 2022. She bought and reviewed 15 junk journals. 15 junk journals. And these journals, average price for a junk journal was $175 a piece for these junk journals. And then when they put the house on Zillow and they were taking pictures of the different rooms of the house trying to sell the house, they left all their art and their statues up. And Scared Fisherman 7749, he cataloged every bit of that artwork that was shown on those pictures. And it came up to $55,250 of stuff that was just shown on the Zillow pictures. Why are we not bringing up how much money they have spent? And you know that had to be out of the family pot. It had to have been. But it was funny because once this came up a week later, the Etsy account was inactivated. Can you imagine just all of this money? You don't see any of the other wives with that kind of money. Where did that money come from? Why are they not bringing that up?
Oh, that Kody and I owe her something. It's like, how do you calculate? How do you figure that out? It's so confusing.
I think it's ridiculous you haven't paid off that property yet.
Your dad's
How
typical.
does he
Your
not have
dad's
the money
typical.
to pay it?
Because he says we had all these other debts, but yet
What other debts?
I've watched him add enough, like he keeps buying assets that he sits on. Trailers and blah, blah, and blah, blah, blah. I see all the art on their walls. I see all these things, and that's fine. I have money and I've spent it on things too.
Janelle took care of her household. Christine took care of her household. Robyn took care of her household. Meri took care of her household. Then I focused mostly on sort of getting the cars for the kids, basically had a fleet, insuring the cars for the kids.
Kody and Robyn shared everything. They shared the house payments, they shared the utilities, they shared everything.
I don't know how it worked at Robyn's house. I don't know. But I used to always be surprised at how nice her backyard was. It was completely finished. And there was always like stuff at her house. And I'm like, wow, huh.
Kody and my money has always been separate up until Christine and Janelle chose and asked it to be out of the family financially. I used to be not so great with money when I was young. I had hard knocks. And then I learned during my divorce really how to budget myself very, very well. You just must have had a different priority of where your money was going to go than I did. That's all.
Like he doesn't prioritize what I need or what I want,
Yeah.
I think after a while, I began to see it, and my kids were getting very angry about it. Like my adult children are like, what the hell, Mom?
There's a lot of misguided jealousy here, a lot of trash talk. Is it true? Well, some of it probably is, but most of it's not.
So that's one of the reasons why we're so upset about Meri and Janelle not getting their money. They deserve way more than what they're getting. And so it's so discouraging to see that they're probably not going to get that back. Why are they not bringing up the video that the original McMansion, she said outright, this house was meant to be an asset to the family, meaning that it belonged to the family. And
Back in the day, our family used to run that we would use all the resources to help one person, then we would all rally to support the other person. That's how it always worked until the last 10 years or so. And all of a sudden it's been about, well, my estate, and everybody needs their own estate.
The whole plan at that point was for that home, my home, to be kind of an asset for the family. Eventually, when I'm built out on the property, it was never supposed to end up being something that was just mine.
When I put the money into the house, I said, well, I think it would be fair if all of our names were on the mortgage. And he's like, no, we need to protect Robyn's estate. She needs to have it so it's hers, and so it's ours. So with me leaving or trying to go somewhere and do something different, I want my value of the property, and I'd like to recoup some of the money I put into Robyn's house.
Another piece of Sister Wives news, Meri wrote on her Instagram page, she's hugging Zona, and she says she's real tired because she only got 2 hours of sleep because of the writing process. That's what she said, the writing process, insinuating that she's writing her book. I surely hope that she is. I so hope that she is. So, all right, so let's get into it. It's Sookie and Jen and Meri. They're all sitting on the couch, and Sookie says they wanted you to sign a contract about the sale of Kody Pass. But then they added an NDA. Jen says, yes, a confidentiality clause. And Sookie says the confidentiality clause about the sale of Kody Pass or about everything. Meri says there's a discussion about Robyn's house and the money that I contributed and the loan for that with my contribution, or whatever word he wants to put to it. They bought the house that was for them. And then, when they sold it, it doubled in value. Yay them. Also, I thought it was a completely separate topic and I didn't think they needed to be merged. So she's saying here that she didn't want to sign the NDA because part of the agreement was that she wouldn't talk about the money she gave Robyn for her house. She said that she felt like that was a separate issue. They're selling Coyote Pass. We're not talking about the house here. We're talking about Coyote Pass. So why is she getting a gag order on the sale of Robyn's house? Kody says, when we went to parceling out the property, there was agreements that hadn't been settled. Janelle and Meri had gifted money to me and Robyn to purchase Robyn's house. And you notice now he's using words like contributed and gifted because he doesn't want to say what Robyn has already said in past seasons was that they gave them that money to be an asset to the family. He'll never say that here because he is working so hard to say they just gave him hundreds of thousands of dollars. Who does that? Who just hands somebody that much money when they themselves don't have a house? Who does that? He said they wanted to be paid back for their gift for Robyn's house. Here he is using gift. But I hadn't been compensated. We couldn't negotiate. In the end, we were able to get Janelle the money that she felt she was owed, and she was good with that. And Meri still wanted her money from the proceeds that she put into Robyn's house. So let's discuss that. My theory, and it's not just my theory, if this is true about him saying that he had made Janelle whole or he had paid her back, my theory is, allegedly, Garrison's house sold. It sold for $388,000, and he had bought it for $329,000. My theory is, and that house sold in December, and I think him and Janelle had a discussion, and he told her that he would let her keep the proceeds of that. That's a theory I have. It's disgusting. I hate it. But I would not put it past Kody that she was made whole because she was able to keep the proceeds from Garrison's house. That is sad, if that's true. And I don't understand why Kody is a part of that. Garrison's house sold in December of 2024. So in January of 2025, Kody was talking about, well, Janelle is square now. Is he talking about Garrison's house? Because if he's talking about Garrison's house, that's awful. That's awful. And if she signed an NDA, that was probably in it because that does not look good at all. That's a horrible look for Kody, considering his relationship with Garrison at the time. I don't know. How is Janelle made whole? That's what my big question is. And I hate to think it has anything to do with Garrison's house because if it does, that is shitty. Shitty, shitty. And so he goes on to tell Sookie, her and I have a negotiation for what she is owed versus what I am owed. And Sookie says, so you're in the process of negotiating those two things? And Kody says, well, we really haven't done it. I just told Meri on the phone, hey, listen, we're going to take care of this. We always intended to take care of it. I could see why she didn't believe that. Robyn says, we talked about a non-disclosure because it was like, let's not fight about finances publicly. So we're sitting there all waiting to get this figured out. Meri was trying to get to a place where she felt comfortable. Some of the things that she was asking for didn't feel fair. And Sookie says, if you were going to eventually take care of it, why was Meri refusing to sign this? And Robyn says, well, Meri didn't like the non-disclosure. So Initially, all three of them had signed in January and Robyn did not sign. And there's a lot of theories on that. One person on Reddit said that maybe it was because the legal reasons of now Meri had gotten a lawyer involved, that maybe Kody was worried about the lawyer going after him. So he went ahead and signed it and then had pushed Robyn under the bus and said, wait, don't you sign it because you can't get in trouble. I'm the ex-husband. You're not anywhere near that. So you don't sign it. You hold it up. Maybe just to try to make himself look good to Meri's lawyer. Does that make sense? And then Melanie from Notes to Self says she feels like he told her to hold up because he always intended to hold up because he's a coward. And that it was easier for everybody to be mad at Robyn than him. So he told her to hold up. And Melanie from Notes to Self is convinced that Robyn is going to leave Kody. She really thinks that that's what's going to happen, that she's setting the groundwork up to leave him. She is so disenchanted with him now. She's crying about how he is and how he was. So she's convinced that she's laying the groundwork to get back into polygamy with somebody else. That's just a theory she has. It makes a lot of sense. I could totally see that. She's been upset with Kody and she doesn't agree with him. They're blowing through money, so she's probably scared they're fixing to be broke. So then Robyn was talking about how the agreement was presented in the beginning. And everything that comes out of Robyn's mouth, I totally believe Janelle, because Janelle has been more trustworthy in the past than Robyn has. So if Robyn held out on the retitling to the last minute and then presented them with an NDA and a hold harmless agreement, is that not extortion? To hold out to the last minute, to 2 or 3 days before the deal expires and say, you sign this and then we'll sell it. Isn't that extortion? Coercion? Isn't there something illegal about all of that? And everybody has a different story than Robyn. Everybody has a different story. Ace and Caitlin said that the reason that Robyn didn't sign. They're so funny. They said the reason Robyn didn't sign in January is because she had ordered a special pen from Etsy to sign it and it had not come in yet. She was waiting for her pen from Etsy to come in before she could sign those papers. And what was on that NDA? Because if Kody signed the NDA, because he's the one that's bringing up all this stuff. Both Janelle and Meri said, I thought we weren't discussing this. But he brings it all. But I guess he broke the NDA when he brought it up in the tell-all. Because Janelle even says, I guess now we're discussing it. I thought we weren't supposed to discuss it, but I guess now we're discussing it. And Meri says, I wasn't even going to talk about this, but since he's talking about it, okay. I think Kody just has a big mouth. How do you get Kody to sign an NDA? He can't handle that.
He leaks like a sieve. He told me stuff about his other relationships and his other wives that I was like, I don't think you're supposed to be telling me that.
And Coyote Pass ended up selling for $1.5 million, and they purchased it in 2018 for $820,000, which means there was a profit of $680,000. So split up 4 ways, and I'm sure there's taxes and titles and all kind of stuff involved. So that's a good chunk of change. I just can't help feeling sorry for Janelle because she really has put up everything for this family. The rumor is that she bought the Lehigh house with some inheritance money that she had. She has talked about cashing out her 401k. She sold her house and gave her profits to Robyn so Robyn could have her own house. And she even asked Robyn not to do it. She begged Robyn not to do it. And remember, she had this conversation with Robyn and it got back to Kody. Kody fussed at her for talking to Robyn about it. Janelle has a history of just walking away from money, of just giving everything she has. I don't think she agreed with the fact that the money she gave Robyn was a gift, because why would Maddie outright ask her if she was going to get her money back? Why would she ask her that? So I don't think that Janelle intended for that to be a gift. Janelle said, no, I'm not going to get my money back. This happens a lot in polygamy, is that women just kind of give up because they don't want attorney fees and heartaches. It's a lot of work to get anything back from a polygamous man. And Janelle has said over and over, I don't want anything to do with him. So I really do feel like that she walked away from a lot of money with Kody and Robyn. just because the process of getting it back was going to be way too much. And the fact that they're even asking for an NDA, that proves that they are scared of something. Why would you have to have an NDA if you're all above board and doing the right thing? The fact that they're even asking for one is very fishy. And Dr. Adams said the same thing. Why would you ask for an NDA if you didn't do anything wrong? Where there's smoke, there's fire, is what Dr. Adams said. And Kody saying things like, well, we would have eventually paid Meri back her fair share, referring to Coyote Pass. Just like you repaid her fair share from the house. So, of course, Meri doesn't trust you because you've already proven you're not trustworthy. You had no intention of paying her back from the house. Why would you pay her back from Coyote Pass? Suki's talking to Janelle, and she says, so you also had to sign an NDA too? And Janelle says, well, we all signed it, but apparently it's not being honored. He's going to talk about it, so I guess it's not being honored. And Suki says, but Meri didn't sign it. And Janelle said, well, part of the agreement was that she wouldn't be able to pursue for lost money. Suki says the lost money is the money that went into buying Robyn's house. And Janelle said, yeah, that was part of his agreement, that Robyn came in at the last minute, like 2 or 3 days before the contract expired, and said, oh, I'm not going to sign or do this title work until you sign this agreement, and was totally a power play. Like it was days before the contract was due to expire. And Suki says to Robyn, well, why didn't you put that on the table right away? And Robyn says it was on the table right away. And Suki said, so the non-disclosure was part of the deal? And Robyn says, yeah, it was sent in the very beginning. When it was sent, it was the original document. And Suki said, so why is Janelle calling this a power play by you? And Robyn says, because she got caught backstabbing Meri. I guess I don't know. This is just what she does when, and then she stops. She says, I don't know. It's just what she's doing. So it's not true. So Robyn is saying that Janelle is just saying all this because she got caught backstabbing. Kody says Robyn never was a party to this holdup. That was me saying we're not signing this until we get an agreement. And Meri said, I want all the money and I don't recognize your expenses here. So we never came to an original agreement. He's saying that Meri didn't recognize his expenses. And what were these expenses? Are these expenses the purple paint that you bought for your picnic tables out on Coyote Pass? Are those expenses? The $10 you gave Christine for her share, is that your expenses? And I highly suspect the expenses he's talking about is the putting in of the cistern, that water well that they put in. All those logs that he cut, he probably had to get some machinery rented to come get all those logs he cut off the land. I'm wondering if that's his expenses. Are the setting up the RV pad for Janelle, maybe that's an expense. Are the expenses you cutting down the trees and peeling the logs? I mean, are you wanting to get paid for that? You made a mess and then you had to pay somebody to clean it up. Is that what you're wanting to get paid for? Are those your expenses? That doesn't make any sense. Why didn't Suki say, what were your expenses? How much were your expenses? She didn't never get down to the nitty gritty of it. And when he's saying stuff like, I wasn't reimbursed for my expenses, how was he paying the expenses in the first place? Was it not from the family pot? Did they have their money separated at that time? I don't know why they don't dig deeper into that. And Suki said, I need to clarify, Meri wanted all the money from what? And Kody says, from my house with Meri in Las Vegas, our house. She wanted all the money from it. That's not how our divorce decree went. It was 50-50, and then she wouldn't recognize all the money that Robyn and I put into Coyote Pass, but yet still wanted 25% of it. And Suki says to Meri, because he was legally married to you, he feels he was owed half of what the house was worth. Now, I remembered a lawyer talking to Meri, and I dug, and I dug, and I dug, and I finally found it, and I'm going to show you the video. It's from season 8, episode 7, where Meri has gone to the lawyer's office and she's discussing with the lawyer that she wants to get a divorce so Kody can adopt Robyn's kids. And this is what the lawyer said.
Misconception with polygamy. People think that there are more than one marriage license, and we do not do that. All 4 of us have spiritual marriages with Kody. However, there is only one marriage license. I'm the one who has legal marriage with Kody.
You're not dividing up property, you're not dividing up debts, so you could go in with a joint petition That's just one piece of paper going in.
It says right here they're not going to split their assets. He said it right there. So I really feel like Kody is lying here. I would like to see this divorce decree because the lawyer says right there that they're not going to split their assets. It'd be very interesting to see the final divorce decree. And Suki says to Meri, because he was legally married to you, he feels he was owed half of what the house was worth. And Meri says, I have never fought him on that. She says, I originally asked him for that. And I got an email back from him literally like just in the past week or so saying that I demanded the full amount of the equity. I mean, sure, it would make sense that I would get it because, I'm the only one who lived in it for the majority of the time that we owned it. And I'm the one who made all the payments. But, your name was on it and you can have half of it. Like, literally, that's how I felt. I'm not going to fight that. And Suki said, why does he have the equity? Jen's like, yeah, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. Suki said, why does he have the money if you lived in that house, you paid all the payments. Why does he get the equity of the house? And Meri said, that was the loan that I gave for Robyn to purchase in Flagstaff. That's that money. Jen says every penny of it. He took it all of it. Suki said, so every penny of the house that you sold in Vegas went straight to Robyn's house? And Meri said, yes. And this is something I've consented to never talk about. But I guess we're talking about it now. So I guess it was part of the NDA. Kody broke the NDA. Kody don't need to be signing no NDAs. Did he even sign an NDA? I don't know. And Suki says to Robyn, it's kind of interesting because Meri said she only wanted what was fair. And she said that what was fair was 50% of the sale of the house. Robyn said, oh, that's not what she said to me. She told me that she thought it was supposed to be all of it. She said, so that was something that still needed to be hammered out. So if you're saying that she wanted all the money and then Kody is saying, well, I was married to you, legally I'm allowed to half of it. And Robyn says, yeah, I mean, like everybody had proceeds from their house. I mean, I gave Kody half of the sale of my home as well. Shut up, Robyn. Sit down and shut up. You giving Kody anything is still your money because you're living with him and you're spending it. Even if he has it, it's still your money because y'all are together. You're living together. Y'all buying all this crap together. But you're married, dumbass. Suki says Meri also said that Kody never lived in the Las Vegas home with her and that she paid all the payments into the house and she wanted to make sure that she gets paid for everything she deserves. And Robyn said, well, he paid her insurance. There were bills that he took care of instead of that. That was how you take care of this bill, you take care of this bill kind of thing. Do you believe that? I don't believe it at all. I think Meri paid 100% of everything on that house. She paid 100% of Leon's college. She paid 100% of Leon's car. I think she paid for 100% of everything. I don't think Kody gave her money for anything. And she's talking about Kody paid Meri's house insurance. And a lot of podcasters are saying, well, the house insurance is part of the mortgage. And so I talked to my husband. He works at a bank. And he says, not always, that your house insurance can be separate. But he did say that if you are a high credit risk and if it's for a large amount of money, then they will make it part of your mortgage just to protect them from losing any money. So it is very likely because that whole Brown family is a high credit risk. And those houses, they paid over $400,000 a piece for those houses. It is very possible that the insurance was wrapped up in the mortgage. And the reason the insurance is wrapped up in the mortgage, because what if something happens to that house and it burns to the ground? The bank would be out all of this money. So that's why they make you get insurance. So they'll be guaranteed to get their money back if something happens to that house. And they do that for people who are high risk. And who are high risk? The entire Brown family is high risk. My husband thinks, yeah, that insurance probably was in on that mortgage. So Robyn doesn't know what she's talking about. Corey and Carly, her surviving sister wife, says, how does Robyn even know how bills are paid? She thinks that the magic bill fairy comes to the magic counter and pays the bill. Because you remember from season 1, her talking about, I need to pay a bill. Do I just set it on this counter? Because she thinks that's how bills are paid. You just set them somewhere and the fairy comes in the middle of the night and pays them. She don't know who pays what bills. She has no idea. No idea. Meri said, no, I paid those bills. How would Robyn know who paid the bills in my house? I paid my bills. He didn't pay the insurance. Suki said, well, that's what she said. Meri said the insurance is usually on the house payment and the mortgage. So, no, he didn't pay. And she starts laughing and she says, I'm amused here. Yeah, it's that ridiculous. No, I don't know what kind of home loan she has, but typical home loans and the one that I had, the insurance is built into the mortgage payment. Therefore, I paid the insurance. Kody says Meri would have eventually gotten all of her money, her absolute fair share. I told Robyn to hold on signing those agreements. Janelle's just trying to cover because she's upset that I revealed that she's wanting to do a backdoor deal with me to get the property sold, and that was all just because she was panicking that we would lose the buyer. And Janelle says, there was no backdoor deal. There was no backdoor deal. We were talking about ways to get the thing done. Since Robyn had thrown this big rock, she was going to be the big rock in the way. Yeah, she was. She was the rock in the way. Would have gone through all clean without this crazy agreement being thrown in at the last minute, like days before the contract expired. Meri's hashing it out with the lawyers regarding what's going on. So there was just a lot of time of no communication. I would call Kody every once in a while and text, guys, we have a ticking clock here, like it's going to expire in 60 days. And be like, yeah, we're working on it. Or Meri won't talk to me. It was just this huge waiting game. Robyn said Janelle was getting impatient. All of a sudden, I hear from Kody. Him and Janelle are talking about a backdoor deal where they sell the property out from under Meri. Meri was in a very precarious situation. And so I was like, hell no, you're not doing this to Meri. And I was like, why are you even talking to Janelle about this? This is wrong. This is morally wrong, and pressuring me, threatening me a little bit. And I was like, fine, if you want to go down this road, then I will go legal on you too, because I actually have a percentage of this property, and I will sit here in the middle of the road. I will make sure we don't sell this property until we do this fairly. Suki says, is he threatening you? Robyn says, he was like, we're going to sell this. I'm like, I don't care what she's doing. One minute she's sitting there loyal to Meri, and the next minute she's doing this. I really don't care what you guys think you're doing. I don't care what you're frustrated and tired of this. We're going to do this the right way. We're going to make sure this is all fair for Meri. And I totally believe Janelle about this. I think they were all prepared to sign until Robyn came up last minute saying, here's an NDA talking about how we're not going to discuss the sale of our house and the sale of the land, and probably some other things that they're not talking about here. The deal would have gone through had the NDA and the hold harmless agreement had not been presented. Christine says, this is the perfect example of why our family broke apart. I feel like Kody did stuff like this all the time, where he would get together with one wife, deciding what to do with everybody else. You can't do that. And again, goes back to the way he did in season 2, where he was talking about Janelle to Christine in the kitchen about how he didn't agree with this and didn't agree with that, and she did this, and he was so mad at her. So I think he is a shit stirrer. I think he stirs the pot. Suki tells Christine, because he says it's Janelle's idea, but Janelle says it was his idea. Christine says, so let's just say maybe that's why our polygamous family didn't work. Are we figuring something out right now? I think I'm figuring something out. And Suki said, did Janelle ever talk about this? Are you surprised that Janelle would eventually work with Kody to sell the property behind Meri's back? Christine says, I think in all of this, you have to look at everybody's perspective. There's a little bit of truth, but everybody in their story has something there that is wrong. It's interesting that Christine didn't defend Janelle here, because she probably knows that Janelle probably was pushing for it because she needed her money. And Suki says to Robyn, why were Kody and Janelle teaming up with each other? Robyn says, good question. It was more of like, why are you partnering with somebody to do anything immoral? That's just what I was having a hard time with. And I was like, you're better than this. You're not being the man I married. And Robyn starts her crying adjacent behavior. Dr. Adam came up with that term. Crying adjacent behavior, where she's pretending to cry, but there's not really any tears. And she says, you're not being the man I married, and I called him out hard. And Suki said, so what'd you say to him? And Robyn said, I was saying you're the man, and then, sorry, I'm just trying to be clear and not be crying. Robyn says, when Meri handed over the legal marriage and Kody and I were supposed to get legally married so we could adopt my kids, I was very nervous. I hated having the law involved. I talked to him about it. He had this very intimate conversation where I said, if I ever wanted out of this, I need your promise that you're going to let me go. He said, if I ever have a wife leave me, I would be the guy that bought the house down the street for her and the kids. I would be the guy that would be friends with her new man. And let's talk about this. Like, she says that her and Kody came to an agreement that if she ever wanted to leave, that he would let her go. Why would they need to have this agreement in the first place unless Kody had a history of not letting wives go, like Meri? That's why they had that agreement. because she witnessed Kody not letting Meri go. And him saying, I would be the guy that would be friends with her new man. So this was the test. David said, do you want to go to Moab with me? He says, nah. So when the new man asks you, do you want to go do something? And he's like, nah. Is that you being friends with her new man? No, no. Robyn says, I took him at that promise. So when I'm seeing him doing this and I remind him, remember what you told me, remember what you promised me. Where's that guy? Where's that guy? And she's being very dramatic with this because he's not here. And I'm very impressed with Suki because she's not really getting into the whole drama. She's not being sucked into it. Suki says to Kody, is Robyn the reason you didn't do the backdoor deal with Janelle? And Kody said, no, Robyn is the moral compass that told me I was being wrong. Janelle and I couldn't have made that backdoor deal work. It was just an idea. Why are we freaking discussing this? He's saying right here it was never really an option. We were just talking about it. Why are we so into this? I mean, gosh, good gosh. Kody's saying it was Janelle who was pushing about it and thinking about it. It was wrong. It was wrong. And Robyn's the one who said it was wrong. And here's the thing. Robyn has always been the moral compass of the Kody Brown family. And why does he call his family the Kody Brown family? Does your significant other use their whole name to describe their family? Janelle says, yeah, she loves to be like, well, I'm not going to do it until it's all fair and equal. And then I'm like, well, there's problems with that. And Suki said, so why is Robyn saying that she is the reason that it's all fair? And Janelle cackles, which means she thinks it's hilarious. She has got the best laugh. And Janelle's like, yeah, she's the paragon of righteousness. Suki says, well, Kody called her the moral compass of the family. And Janelle says that thing again that's very, very true. She goes, that's fine. You give power to get power. And I told y'all that Robyn is very manipulative with Kody. Like she acts like, oh, you gotta help me. You gotta help me. You gotta help me. You gotta stay with me. You can't leave. Can you cut my meat for me? So Janelle knows what she's talking about. Suki tells Meri, Kody says that she is the moral compass for the family. Meri says, I'm sure she's a moral compass for him and her family. Suki says, but he says the entire Brown family, everybody. And Meri said, well, that's rude. She's not my moral compass. I have my own moral compass. So do you understand the distrust for you and Kody? And Robyn, suddenly she's got some energy. She says, not me, not me. Here of late, not me, not me. I have said from the beginning of this, I will be taking care of this. There's nothing that I have done that would make Meri question me. Whatever they have is their crap, not me. Kody and I are not the same person. And even if I am loyal to him and love him, I do not agree with things that he does. I do not agree with his attitudes. She starts crying again. She sobs and she says, I have a very strict moral compass. And she starts crying again. She says, because I don't believe in this kind of crap. I believe it's wrong. Suki says to Meri, when Robyn found out about this backdoor deal, do you think that Robyn should have told you about it? And Meri says, I think that if anybody else knew about it and I was being kept out of the loop and it was something against me, I would think that it would have been very respectful for somebody to tell me. Okay. So Meri says, I know that I have not always been the best person, but I have not been a dishonest person. So this is one of the reasons that I like Meri now, is because she realizes that she was kind of a B, and she realizes that, and she accepts it, and she says it. She says, but I have not been a dishonest person, which I believe her. I don't think she's ever really lied about anything. I appreciate her saying this, but she says, I've never been a dishonest person, and I believe her. I think that was her problem, is she was too honest. She was very honest. Brutally honest. Suki says to her, do you think Robyn's a dishonest person? Meri very cleverly says she doesn't really answer the question. She says, I hope that Robyn's not a dishonest person. I hope that all of them are not dishonest. Suki said, well, she sat here on the couch and said that she's never given you a reason to distrust her. Meri said, I disagree with that. We have our own perspectives. I disagree with that. Unfortunately, as painful as that will be for her to hear, I totally disagree with that. Robyn says, I'm worried, okay, I don't trust Meri at this point, but I'm still looking out for her, right? And she's telling me she thought she would get all the proceeds from her house. She thought she didn't have to worry about what Kody and I had put in the Kody Pass extra. It was like, Meri, we're trying to work this out. Come on, please, can we just figure this out? But I didn't trust her enough to tell her what was going on. And Suki said, why? And Robyn says, "Are you serious?" And Suki says, "Yes." And Robyn says, "Oh my gosh, are you serious right now?" And Suki says, "Yes, I'm serious." And she says, "No, I'm sorry. I'm not going to sit there. I did what I could, and that is not a fair expectation of me at all, because that's my husband, and I fought him how I could. If she knew, all she would do is create more problems. I called him out verbally. I was fighting with him. I was saying I will get in the way of this whole deal, and you guys won't be able to sell this. I'm not going to sit there with someone who's backstabbing me over and over and over again and trust her. I did what I could based on what Meri has done in our relationship. I'm not going to sit there and be disloyal to Kody. If she had maintained her relationship with me, but not now, she has burned so many bridges with me, and I don't know why." Do you believe any of that? I don't believe any of that. Suki said, "Well, what were the bridges that were burned that you couldn't go back to?" And Robyn says, "She's sitting there trashing me, and I didn't even know what the problem was. We go from like we have a friendship, we have a relationship, and then all of a sudden it's gone." I do not believe this. Meri has said before that Robyn has ghosted her. Meri sat over there in that house during COVID, not going or doing or talking to anybody, by herself for months and months and months. She had a playground in her backyard so your kids can come over and play. There was no reason why you could not have been friends with her. There was no reason why Robyn's kids couldn't come over to her house. You ghosted her. So you sitting there saying we had a relationship and it's gone, and she doesn't know why. Because you ignored her. You were just using her for her money. And Suki says, a real good question, Suki says to Kody, "Why was Robyn the last person to sign? Why was it Robyn and not you?" And Kody said, "Well, I had already signed. Robyn hadn't gone in yet. We were ready to go. I thought Meri and Janelle were accepting this January contract. I signed. I was ready to go. Meri didn't accept the January contract. So I was just like, Robyn, just don't go sign. And we're just holding up until we get this entanglement separation finished." And that was this process. And so finally I went, "We will allow the sale with her 25% and hope in the future that we can finish this negotiation out." And he said, "And the reason I did that was because the lawyer said that I wouldn't have to pay or anything. You can give her this money or not according to the law. You're not required to." And that's because he jacked up the titles and only gave her 1/14 of the land. So he did her dirty from the beginning and even said to her that I'll fix it later, and never did. And now he never intended to pay for her until Meri got a lawyer and protected herself. So yeah, your lawyer said you don't have to pay her because that's his job. He's telling you what you're entitled to do. You jacked up the titles. And Suki said, "Is it over?" And Kody said, "It's over. Meri will get paid. Everybody is going to have their money, and I'm going to be bitter because they sat there and shit talked me the whole time." And he says, "The experience at Kody Pass really set me forward on the apology stuff. It was so toxic that I just didn't realize that it was like in the heat of that time after everybody had been paid and settled in, I was like, this has to change." So this means when he says above, everybody will get paid. Because then he goes on to talk about that everybody has been paid and settled on Coyote Pass. So he must be talking about how he's going to pay Meri for the house. Everybody will get paid. Everybody's going to have their money. And I wonder if that's part of that $750,000 line of credit he got pulled out on his house. If he's going to pay back what he owes Meri, that would be very interesting. And if he does pay back Meri, does he give her back a percentage of the profits? Probably not. He says, "I went to Robyn and said I have this idea and I want to apologize to him because I need this sort of tension in these relationships to go away." So that was the primary thing. And Suki said, "So you had an apology with Christine, and during that apology, the conversation had turned into an idea of developing a friendship with you and David. But then there was a line drawn in the sand during that conversation." And it shows a clip of him talking Christine and David at that big table at that restaurant. David is really trying to sympathize with Kody here. David tells Kody at that time, he says, "But when it comes to feelings, I get your anger because you're scared in the beginning of what you're losing." And Kody is so condescending to David. He goes, "I appreciate this sort of vote of grace there, David. Thank you. But let's keep going down the list." And then David says, "Why don't you come to Moab with me?" Because he was talking about how Moab was an experience and that he felt like it helped him get grounded and realize what was important because it was so beautiful. Kody says, "I'm not interested in it, but thanks." He's such a jackass. Kody says to Suki, they seem healthy and whole in their relationship. I want Christine to just release it, just this experience with me. So I want her and David to feel free. I want her to go in love. I watched their wedding. And Suki says, you watched their wedding? Kody said, yeah. And I was smiling through the entire thing. It was just fun to see Christine in a great spot. So Dr. Adam pointed out, you just said, Kody, that Christine was in a great spot. Why do you feel like you have to release Christine? She's fine. She's fine. You just said she's in a great spot. Why do you feel like you have to release these women? If you're saying right here that you feel like they're doing good, that's all for the show. And I think he was hoping maybe if they get on talking terms, maybe his kids will talk to him. Who knows? And Kody says the wedding was sort of her dreams come true. And Suki says, so you were happy for her? And Kody says, yeah, very happy for her. And Suki says, there's a couple of big issues in your marriage with Christine, and one of them was you not being attracted to her. Did you want to address that to her? Kody says, yeah, because that was when we were first married. I want to say something sweet about Christine. We had this marvelous experience after she had our first child and she gets this professional job. And I remember we were stone broke, and her and I were at a department store where she tries on the pantsuit. You look so damn good in that pantsuit, and you have to have it. A very, very sweet experience. So he's saying, remember that one time that I was attracted to you after you just had our baby and you were going to go get a job and get me some more money and we bought you that pantsuit? Yeah, that I really liked you in that pantsuit. So I'm glad he didn't mention that in front of David because, yeah, that would be breaking bro code. Like, yeah, you were so hot in that pantsuit that one time I was attracted to you. This is crazy, but the burgundy pantsuit reminds me of that song Fancy by Reba. If you know what that song's about, I'm not going to go into it, but that's red pantsuit and her getting a job. He says, well, I didn't apologize for that whole situation. I feel ashamed, but you're reminding me. I think she misinterpreted that when we started to break up. It wasn't a matter of physical attraction. It was trust attraction. Suki says to Christine that Kody regrets not apologizing for saying that you were not attractive. And Christine said, well, thank God he didn't. That would have been really awkward with David there with all of it. I'm not married to you anymore. Don't talk to me like that. I am now married. That's absolutely, oh God, that makes me mad. It gets into him saying, I apologize for never loving you. And I'm really struggling as to why David is upset with this. And I'm trying to keep an open mind to try to get his perspective as to why. And Melanie from Notes to Self kind of helped me see a glimpse of maybe why he's upset. She's moved on, moved past, and now he's bringing I did love you. I did love you. She felt like it was a mind game, and that may be why he's upset about it, which is probably true because that whole apology was not for them. It was for him. And him saying on national TV that he never loved those women was one of the crappiest things that he has ever done. So him apologizing for it, I don't think it's that insulting to get that upset about it because he did need to apologize for that because that was just straight anger and rude. And it really is pretty devastating for any kids that were watching that. I think at the time that Christine was okay with the apology and found out later that it offended David. She's trying to take his side on it now. I don't know. But I always thought that he went around and did all those apologies just so he could sit them down and tell them that he was going to be on special forces. Because remember when he walked in the room and Christine and David were in that room and he goes, y'all suck those beers down. I got something fun to tell you. I think he was wanting to go around and do his tour and tell everybody he was going on special forces. He wanted applause and accolades because he's going to be on this show. And then he goes, oh, by the way, I apologize for all that stuff back there. And I'm sure David picked up on the fact that Kody's real condescending, and it may have hurt his feelings, but David said the reason he invited Kody to Moab was to test him to see if he really was willing to move on, move forward. He said, do you want to come to Moab? And I wanted to see where he's at. And it was all about what he wanted to say and not about let's do something. He had to get his point across and that was it. It's all about what he wants. It's not about what Christine wants. It's not what's best interest for what the family is, what he wants to do. And I do believe this now that he has said this out loud, that it was a test. Because remember when he stopped Kody and said, why do you say that? Why do you say you hope we can be friends? Why do you say that? Because he stopped him. And then he asked him this to see how serious he was about that statement. So told you right there that he wasn't serious. So it was kind of a test on David's part. Because if you say, let's be friends. It's kind of like when you're talking to a long lost friend and you're like, oh, it's been so long since we got together. We should do something. And the other friend says, hey, do you want to go somewhere next Saturday? And you're like, no. I feel like it was that kind of test. Like, you're sitting here saying that we should move past this and we can be friends, I hope. And David said, well, why do you say that? Well, what about we go to Moab? No. So I truly believe that that's what that was all about. So some people say that he got his feelings hurt and that's why he's saying it was a test, but I really think it was a test. And Suki is asking Robyn about this exchange between Christine and David and Kody. And she says, do you think it was awkward for David to hear, like, I did love you, to acknowledge that in front of her new husband? Robyn said, well, it could be, or he could just be enlightened enough to realize it would be something that would heal her, which is very interesting because what if Robyn's ex-husband came in and said, I need to talk to you and Kody, and said, well, I did love you. I hope you're enlightened enough to know that this will heal you. I wonder how Kody would have felt about that. They asked Robyn why she didn't come, and this is Cody's thing. It's not my thing. I'm glad Robyn didn't come because she would have been sitting there making faces the whole time. And then Kody says, I can appreciate that David was offended and I apologize that he was offended. But if I feel like telling Christine that I loved her, that's not breaking bro code. If he thinks that I broke bro code, he works in construction and he talks about things that are different than I understand them. Maybe that's breaking a bro code. I wasn't aware. I apologize. And the way he says this is so condescending. What does he mean when he says he works in construction? Is he referring to the fact that David is a hardworking blue collar person and he's just this white collar man that wears gloves all the time? Does he think he's better than David? Because at this point, David owns that business and he has more money, more true money than you will ever have. You are so mortgaged up to your ass. So Suki starts arguing with David about why it's a problem. And David's starting to get upset. And I don't understand why he's getting that upset. It didn't put a good look on David that he was so upset. Then it goes to next time on. I think we're going to get into Meri talks about her emotions involved with the fact that Janelle married her brother. Janelle says, actually, I asked to be in their family. They never asked me. I knew them as a couple and I just felt so inspired to say, look, I think I belong in your family. And this goes back to that whole season 1 where they're saying over and over that Meri brought all these women into it. That is such a lie. They straight up lied to us in season 1 and said that Meri brought in all these women. And right here it says, Janelle says they never asked me. I asked to be in their family. Meri didn't bring Janelle in. Of course not. Meri was furious about her divorcing her brother. Why would she ask Janelle to be in her family? Why would she do that? So that was just a straight lie in season 1. Straight lie. Christine says she didn't trust Robyn because Robyn would go back and tell Kody everything. And Meri says Robyn couldn't be trusted because private conversations would get shared. And I'm wondering if she's now referring to the catfish. So that's where it ends on that. And I really hope on this next episode that they don't go into the backdoor deal anymore because nobody's really buying that. Nobody, the podcasters that I'm listening to, they don't buy that at all. And I think at the end of the day, Janelle was just telling Kody what her lawyer said. The end. And then Kody did that dramatic thing where he talks to all the other wives and just like true girl games, taking some information and blowing it out of proportions. And really all it was Janelle just saying, hey, my lawyer said that this was an option. And I noticed through this, one odd thing that I noticed that has nothing to do with nothing, but on his necklace he's got a ring, and that's that Clawda ring. And he also wears that Clawda ring on his middle knuckle sometimes. So I wonder whose Clawda ring that is. Because obviously it's not his because it doesn't fit his fingers. It has to be a woman's Clawda ring. He keeps it on him and he wears it. And he brazenly wears it in the middle of his knuckle so everybody can see it. I wonder what that ring's about. I really think that the kids are not going to be brought up at all. That's really sad. Kody and Robyn have inserted their will and TLC has backed down yet again, and they're not going to discuss the kids at all. It's foreboding. And that's very disappointing because I really would like to hear about how the kids are doing. So anyway, that's it for that episode. And so this is the part where I come up with my tell-all question. At one point, Kody had said that their houses were meant to be their assets. And when they were in Las Vegas, they were fully expected to pay for 100% of their own houses. But now he thinks that he owns 50% of everybody's. And so, did Robyn take care of 100% of her own house? Do you see what I'm saying? If Kody and Robyn lived together, did Robyn take care of 100% of her own house like Christine and Meri and Janelle did? Or was Kody living with her and they were just blowing the money together? So, do you see how that's not fair? If Robyn didn't sit there and pay all her bills and pay 100% of her own mortgage, Kody helped her with that. So how is that fair? And Melanie from Notes to Self says that sometimes men can't qualify for things on their own, so they use their wife's credit, and then so the wife does it for them, and then the men own 50% of what the wife owns. And why did Christine have to quit claim Coyote Pass? And he felt he was owed part of her house too, even though she's the one that paid 100% on it. And this is why polygamous women walk away with nothing. This is why polygamy cannot work. I was all for advocating in the first season that leave them alone, let them do what they want to do. And the system really is abusive. So Kody totally did the opposite. He didn't prove anything but polygamy does not work. And it's financially abusive to women because he is basically financially abusing these women and saying, Christine, are you going to give me 50% of your house? Are you going to sign over Coyote Pass? Why does he think he owns 50% of anything there? And the only reason they got anything is because there's been cameras in place. There's been cameras watching them. They would have cheated Meri out of all of that. They would have taken all of Janelle's money. My question to their wives would be, knowing what you know now and how it ended, Christine, would you have signed over Coyote Pass? Meri and Janelle, would you have given them money for Robyn's house? At the time, you were brainwashed into thinking that they're going to take care of you next, and they didn't. Can you tell us what Kody contributed to y'all? Because Robyn says that Kody paid Meri's insurance. Tell us what Kody contributed to you. I'm just assuming they split up their TLC paycheck, but it all went into the family pot. Do you see what I'm saying? Because you are 100% responsible for yourself and your own family. What can you tell us about that? Because if Kody's entitled to 50% of your property, why is he saying that? Why does he think he's owed any of that? That would be my question to the wives is, can you tell us what bills, if any, Kody paid for your family? Because I feel like he only paid for Robyn's and he didn't put any money towards the rest of the family. How did he help you financially? We need some evidence. All right. So that's it for that episode. And I appreciate y'all listening to me, and I'll see y'all next time.
That's it for today. If you like my podcast, please like, comment, and subscribe. And if you want to reach me, you can always reach me at redflagrewatch@gmail.com. Thank you for joining me today. See you next time.
Why shouldn't you fundraise for marathons? Why shouldn't you fundraise for marathons? They just take the money and run. Why wasn't the cactus invited to hang out with the mushrooms? Why wasn't the cactus invited to hang out with the mushrooms? He wasn't a fun guy. He wasn't a fun guy. A fun guy. All right, you're welcome. See y'all next time.